Okay, we're doing a bit of a video recording just for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll put this up, but I am doing a slight video recording for the university I work for. They asked for people who work there what we do creatively.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, just record a little bit of me and my husband recording our podcast. So
Unearthly Upstate.
Unearthly Upstate. All right. So this is part 2, Murderers Creek.
Yes.
All right.
We just got done with part 1.
Yep.
Now we're on to part 2.
Go to part 2. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's take a pause. Welcome to Unearthly Upstate. I'm Mari.
And I am Matthew.
And today we're going to finish part 2 of Murderers Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And this Murderers Creek is in the western part of New York. And it's in Archon, New York. This, again, we are dealing with a creek that is known as Murderers Creek. A murder did happen on Murderers Creek, but it wasn't called Murderers Creek because of the legend. It had that name prior.
Mm-hmm.
So like the one we talked about in our previous episode,
Mm-hmm.
the name was there prior to the horrific event. So,
right. Once again, yes, in the first instance, it was due to, well, its original name was Dutch.
Dutch, yes.
You know,
Yeah.
And it either meant Mother's Creek or Muddy Creek.
Or Muddy Creek, yes.
So, you know, you had your choice, but it was known as that. But it sounded like Murderers Creek.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was
that's what it evolved
Murderers Kill, and then became
Yeah.
Murderers Kill, and then Murderers Creek. I did not find if this one, how it was, the name had changed. It's just, I know the name was Murderers Creek prior to that. There is a folk tale that is called The Legend of Murderers Creek, which has nothing to do with the actual murder we're going to be talking about. I'm not going to go too much into the legend here, but it's about this farmstead family. They hear a distress cry from a woman, go out, and there's a Native American woman who's being forced into a marriage, and she's being hunted down by her her groom-to-be, and it's just this convoluted, crazy story, and unfortunately it's a story you hear a lot, legend-wise. So how much of this one is true, I'm going to probably say not a lot of it. That's why I'm not going to go into it, but I just thought it would be worth mentioning there is a legend of Murderers Creek. Apparently that's originally where the name came from. The thing is, though, if you've taken any travels across the United States, you run across this particular legend in a lot of places.
Absolutely.
So it's the lady in white. It's one of those. Exactly. We're going to go talk about the facts and the actual murder that happened on this Murderers Creek, again, on the western side of New York. So
it's the subject for a lot of murder ballads. You know, the legend definitely would be a murder ballad. What we're going to be talking about definitely would be a murder ballad. From Guthrie to Cash.
Those of you not familiar with the term murder ballad, you remember Bugs Bunny used to sing the song Barbara Allen in a lot of his cartoons. That's a murder ballad. Mm-hmm. Basically, these are songs that recount murders, and they usually involve tragic love. They usually involve women killing their children. I mean, horrific stuff we still talk about to this day, stuff that you can go on YouTube and find hundreds of channels devoted to this stuff, and these are songs.
Tom Dooley
is another one.
Classic murder ballad.
There are hundreds of them. Just go on Wikipedia and start going down that rabbit hole of all the famous ones, and there's some that you might like, wait a minute, I didn't realize it was a murder ballad. Well, you might only know the first verse, but if you go into the second or third verse, you suddenly realize, oh my God, this is horrific. Yeah. But that's part of folk history, So let's get the facts of the murder that happened at Murderers Creek in Archon, New York. Now, like I said, I'm skipping over the Native American legend.
Oh, interesting though it is.
It is very interesting, but if anyone wants to read it, we'll have links on our webpage, but it really has nothing to do with the rest of the story that we're going to talk about. There was a young woman named Sadie, or Sarah was her given name, she was known as Sadie, from Archon, who was accused of committing murder on Halloween in 1890. And I would say accused? I'd say pretty much caught red-handed. But
Halloween night is a rough night for some people, you know.
Yeah. I think later we're going to go into a bit of a past with Sadie here. I'm going to say there is a positive with this, is the fact that she was treated as somebody was mentally ill. I'm getting most of the facts from an article called Murderers Creek, the Sorry Case of Sadie McMullen. This was written in October 27th, 2016. It's a really good article, but it really lays out the timeline. Now, Sadie McMullen, who was she? She was a young woman, she was about 17 or 18 at the time, who was known to people in the area. She was known by the children of the area. She kind of, she was somebody that, okay, as from where our kids were growing up, it would have been somebody we would have thought, okay, if she wants to show up and take the kids outside and play, we would trust them. Mm-hmm. Okay. There was no reason for parents and people around her to think she was odd. She was, a very, from all accounts, a little quiet, but she wasn't, she didn't display anything that make you go, oh, I got to keep my kids away from her. Okay. There's like no warning signs.
There were no
right
ticks or anything like
there was
that would
nothing outwardly
raise any red flags.
Yeah. On Halloween, she went to the Connors house, taken Nellie Mae Connors and a friend of hers named Delilah on an errand up to Johnson's store to buy a pound of butter. Like I said, nothing about Sadie at this time would make you go, I shouldn't leave my kids alone with her.
Yeah.
So if she was going to take these girls up to the to get up to the store to get some butter, fine. And if the girls wanted to go, a little adventure, why not?
Exactly. Especially if they've been in the company of this adult, repeatedly.
Right. Yeah.
Over a long period of time.
Now, the first odd thing that happened was Sadie did get to the store. She put the butter on the counter, put the money on the counter, then walked out without the butter. That was really the odd thing that kind of alerted people that something was going on.
Yeah, that is kind of strange behavior. Because why purchase something and just leave it there?
Yeah. The thing is, was she known to this family? I mean, did she just show up to this random group? No, she knew the family. She had worked as a servant for them because Mrs. Brown, the matriarch, had passed away, and Sadie came in to help him out with, things that had to be done in the house. And she...
Naturally?
Yeah, she stayed on, so they did trust her. She went to the store, she puts the pound of butter down, puts the money down, walks out, says, goodbye, Hannah. Hannah's like, hey, where are you going? And Sadie snapped and slammed the door. So something odd was happening there. Up to this point, nothing Sadie had done to make people go, ooh, she's a weird one. This was the first clue something was going on.
There's no behavior previous to this that would indicate that she was unstable.
Right. So Hannah, who worked at the store, did not see the other two girls. Now remember, she'd picked up the two girls from the Browns' house. I don't think I was clear on that. Went to go buy a pound of butter, but Hannah didn't see the girls. But she was a little worried about Sadie's behavior. So she left and went to her brother's tavern and said, hey, Sadie came in. She's acting weird. It's a small town. People knew each other. People were like, okay. Obviously, whatever Sadie had done had really shook Hannah. I mean, how many of us, those of us who work in retail, this stuff happens all the time. I hate to say it. Somebody goes by something, forgets it there, and then you try to catch them, and they might ignore you, or they might, snap like Sadie did. It happens. But something made her go, this is different. And that's why she ran to her brother's tavern and said, what's up with Sadie? Okay. At this point, she didn't see the girls, so the girls aren't on the her radar at this point. But then, while she's at the tavern, somebody comes running in. Mm. Sadie was in the creek, in Murderers Creek. Okay?
In
the creek, drowning. All right?
Right.
Simon Brown hurries in the direction of the creek near his home, and where Sadie is supposedly drowning herself. Now, the water is less than 10 feet deep at that point. And then they get her out of the water, and she's screaming, "Put me back, put me back, put me back. Let me go back." They get her back into the house, try to, get the medical people there, and then somebody remembers, wait a minute, she was with the girls.
Yeah, she was with the kids.
Where are the girls? And Sadie goes, what girls?
What children?
What children?
Where's Della?
And then
was she with me?
Was she with me?
Oh my God! And they say yes.
Yeah,
you were. They were with you.
Where were the girls? Well, frantic search back to the river, and they find them. One died, one survived.
Okay.
Ella died instantly. Ella was dead when they found her. Delilah was alive, but she'd suffered a lot of brain injury, so she was never the same afterwards. What had happened was before the store or after the store, Sadie threw the girls over the bridge. Why? That's the big question. Why did she try to kill those two girls and then kill herself? It really gets into a mental problems. Obviously, they caught the murder pretty much red-handed. I mean, she was found drowning herself. The girls were found nearby. It's not hard to put two and two together what happened.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it had been somebody else who attacked him, even if Sadie hadn't been in the right mind, you think she would have said that? But she never did.
What explanation do the investigators give for Sadie's behavior?
At this time, no one really did, except realizing something was not right in her head. She was not mentally correct in the head. But we're talking about, again, this is 1890. This is pre-Freud.
Right. Right, exactly.
Okay. I got to give them credits for realizing immediately that she wasn't motivated by malice, and she wasn't motivated by anything you would typically think a murder would be motivated by. But it was something, a defect in her head, basically. She was mentally ill. So let's give credit where credit's due. They were very progressive when it came to it. And I think it also helped that nobody really believed she was capable of it until it happened. Like I said, she gave no clues that there was something wrong until that day.
Boy, and how nervous did this make other parents who had a similar situation?
If we go into the background, Sadie, it's a sad tale.
But she had some post-traumatic stress that just finally snapped?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so.
Let's start with when after she was arrested and she was brought to trial, they didn't send her to prison. They sentenced her to a psychiatric hospital.
Where'd they send her?
Buffalo.
Buffalo, okay.
Buffalo.
I was thinking, if a place like Letchworth was open at the time,
Letchworth was open at the time.
As a matter of fact, it was open at the time.
So was Utica.
Utica, yeah. You might have gotten stuck in the Utica crib.
No, she was sent to Buffalo.
She was sent to Buffalo, okay.
She gets sent to... Most of this information you get here is from the doctors who worked with her in the psychiatric hospital. She was born on January 6, 1873. She had been born in Chicago. Preterm. She was a preemie.
Okay. She was prematurely. She was a premature birth.
Right there.
By how much?
Oh, I'm surprised she did survive at that point.
But just how premature was she?
It just said she was not full term, so it could have been just a week or so. It could have been 2 months. They're not clear on it.
All right. There again, spotty on the details.
Right.
From the people who were reporting back at the time and place.
But this is written by the psychiatrist who's getting the story from her. So, again, we're going to go based on what her is. So he might not have gotten all the information from her. And I don't know how much he corroborated, too. So, mother is never given a name, but her father's name was William McMullen.
Okay.
The mother had also given birth to a boy 2 years previously who did not survive. Dr. William Cross, who did write up some of this stuff, said that Sattie's father possessed a roving, restless disposition, working at odd jobs in Canada, Michigan, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, and then New York. So this guy was all over the place. He devoted little time to his family and has always been stern and austere and made his home one of misery, poverty, and wretchedness. So you get this idea the father sounds to me like one of these guys where he'd work for a while, either get bored with the job or get fired from the job, and then decide, oh, screw this place and move on, uprooting everybody and taking them aboard. She moved. I mean, look at the places she lived before they got to New York. I mean, they were in Canada, they were in Illinois, they were in Missouri, they were in Wisconsin. They were jumping around a lot.
Probably having some underlying issues of his own.
Exactly, yes. When she was 2, according to this report, an incident occurred which fanned the flames of smoldering embers of her tainted heritage. I do have to say that this particular doctor was a proponent of eugenics. We've discussed this before. And so he's basically trying to prove that mental illness traveled in families and that, we will not go down that full eugenics rabbit hole. There's
a proven congenital...
mental illness does travel...
Traceable congenital defects.
Okay.
That have things to do with schizophrenia, that sort of thing.
Right.
But not every mental illness
exactly
is passed through family lines.
And not of it is genetic. A lot of it is, nurture. And I think in Sally's case, we're going to look at it's mainly nurture. So let me go back to the incident here. Upon coming home from work one evening, her father discovered some rats behind a wire cupboard. He let in the dogs, and there ensued a scene better imagined than described. While at its height, Sadie, who was sleeping on the couch, she was 2 years old at this time, awoke and fell instantly into a crying spell, then laughed, clapped her hands, and fell back onto the couch apparently in slumber. Upon trying to awaken her, she had a fit, frothed at the mouth, straightened out, then threw her arms and limbs about wildly. And during the night, she had several such attacks.
Sounds like epilepsy.
She had epilepsy.
By golly. And being a single, there's no support for single parents.
Well, the mother was still involved, but not mentioned much. They never really paid attention to what the mother was doing at this point.
What kind of situation, then, do you have here with
Let me take
parents?
that back. Her mother died a year later.
Mother died?
So you kind of jumped the gun. Yes, he was a single parent.
Yeah, okay.
But this attack started prior to him being a single parent. Sattie's mother was quick-tempered, troublesome, suicidal, and homicidal. What a combination. So there's probably some physical abuse going on. There's probably mental abuse going on. And then you get a girl who's got obviously severe epilepsy at the very least in this situation. Her death occurred when Sadie was 3, shortly after the rat incident. This rat's incident, he said, he better left to the imagination described. There is a YouTube video out there of some people trying to clear out a field of rats.
Yeah.
Very modern video. I think it was filmed in 2012. So this is not an old-timey thing at all. It's interesting to watch because there's a reason why those dogs are called rat terriers. Okay? There's a reason. Yeah. It might be disturbing for some people to watch. But let me tell you, those dogs were bred to do exactly what they do in that video. And yes, it is horrendous to watch. But when you see the amount of rats that come out of the ground, you could see why they resorted to those dogs going after them. Because this wasn't going to be a simple thing of just setting a few traps out.
Are rats carriers of communicable disease?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to go after the rats.
I mean, they always blame the rats for the bubonic plague, although I've heard the theory is probably guinea pigs. But
they're not at all like the domestic rats.
No, the domestic rats, which we have 9 in the house. Not ours. But there are 9 in our house, and they're all very adorable and very sweet.
Yes.
They did not plan to have 9 rats.
Our extended family wound up with a pregnant female rat, and they were not told that upon the point of purchase.
Anyway, let's go back to Sally. There's this horrendous thing going on with the rats, and like I said, just imagine it. I mean, kind of setting that thing with the YouTube video about how horrendous it might look. Shortly after that, her mom is walking in the woods of Wisconsin, like me and you did many times.
Oh, yes, always. Saw
a bear, ran home, and died.
Of fright?
Possibly. Now, I had a dog that did that. Well, it wasn't my dog. It was a family dog. I was too little at the time. the dog went out to... We had dogs that did morning constitutionals. They would go down to different parts of the farm in the mornings. And this dog would go down to the pond. Mm-hmm. And one day, he hightailed it back, went under our porch, and died.
Oh, jeez.
Obviously scared to death.
You got a carcass, you got a fish out from underneath the porch now.
Yeah. But that gives an example. Supposedly she saw a bear. We always said our dog saw a cougar or some big cat or something. Mm-hmm. He could have ran into a bear. Bears are pretty prevalent up there.
But so frightened that the animal expired from fear.
Right. And this is what happened. According to Sadie's mom, she died on Halloween night. 1876. Okay, so right. if you go to true crime, there are things called triggers that set people off. Her mother dies on Halloween night.
Oh.
Major trigger.
Okay.
Major trigger. Okay, remember that one. Okay. So that gives a little bit of her background. So obviously she did not have a very stable childhood. No. She didn't a single father who really wasn't somebody who wanted a stable life.
Struggled with building a life for his family, yes.
But yet the people around that place in New York were like, they never thought she was odd. There were no warning signs that she was not somebody you couldn't trust your kids with. I mean, she knew the family. She'd been there while their mother was dying and stayed on afterwards to help the family out as a servant. But they obviously respected her and trusted her enough to say, "Oh, go ahead, take the girls down."
Sure.
So obviously the warning signs weren't there until she shows up to the store and starts behaving oddly. And then afterwards, people realizing the girls weren't with her. Or at least the girls weren't seen. They could have been outside the store at the time, but you'd think if you were bringing the girls down to the store, you'd bring them into the store and maybe buy them a candy or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe buy them a hard candy, a peppermint or something,
Yep.
And then
pixie sticks and moon pies.
Pays for the butter, but doesn't take the butter and leaves and gets really snappy.
Yeah.
It's Halloween night. It's 23 years.
Well, this is 1890, yeah?
1890.
So, Halloween doesn't have the emphasis then as it does today.
No, that was until about the 1930s that really started. 1920s, 30s,
a celebration, a holiday.
Big thing was the 1950s. Really big. Really.
Yeah.
Up to this point, it's just a coincidence this all happened on Halloween.
Right.
But based on her name being Irish, it probably had a little more meaning to the Irish.
Oh, Hallows Eve.
I'm just guessing. I don't know. But that's where most of our Halloween celebration comes from, is from the Irish and the Scottish. And so,
All Saints Day.
Yeah, based on their name, it probably did have a little more significance, especially to her who lost her mother on it. Okay.
And since All Saints Day is a time when we remember those close to us that we've lost, it would, and as she is Irish and presumably Catholic,
right,
and not Orangeman.
We don't know,
but we don't know if she was Northern Protestant or from Cork. Who knows?
Yeah.
The thing is, it may have the date itself and its significance to her mother's death. Yeah, probably just it was a significant event enough to push her over the edge.
Now, as we're going to go back and they've got her in the house and they realize the girls are gone. They find the girls. One's dead. One's alive.
Thrown over the bridge.
Now, they were able to talk to Delilah, who she did corroborate a bit of what happened. But the main witness was an 11-year-old boy named Dan Flynn. He did see Sadie pulling the girls. So at some point, the girls were trying to get away from her, and she was forcing them to go with her.
Oh.
Now, he saw that happening. So he said, after talking to Delilah and Dan, they were going to press charges against her, but she was still at the Browns' house. Can you believe this at this point?
Oh,
She's still there getting medical treatment. This is the woman who probably just killed your one daughter and tried killing the other girl.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
For goodness sakes, yes. That must have been very frustrating and emotionally trying for the parents to have the murderer of their children still in the household.
But I think at this point, nobody's putting it together quite yet.
Yeah.
They might think it was some sort of weird accident. Sally is cold, and I don't mean emotionally. She's cold. They're trying to get her temperature up. They were, rubbing her. They were trying to give her stimulants. Probably give her a coffee and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying very hard, and also trying to figure out what had happened at this point. Now information's coming in. It's not looking good for Sadie at all. But she kept saying, "I don't know. I don't know." One of the men who had found the girls said where they were. And then Sally replied, "Well, if you know so much about this, you better go get them." They had just, pulled their bodies out of the creek.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly she's getting nasty again.
Yeah.
So this man, his name was Simmons, tested her by making the accusation with his fingers on her pulse and noted that the questions produced a little upward spike. Problem was, remember they were giving her stimulants?
Yeah.
So he's trying this very primitive lie detector without taking into consideration that they probably gave her cocaine. At this time, cocaine was pretty much in everything. So they
probably with laudanum thrown on top of it.
Laudanum, which would slow her down. Yeah, so her heart would be going weird.
She'd be like Homer Simpson behind the wheel of a truck.
Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't know they thought that's where the girls were. And then the girls were discovered, brought to the same house. Probably was the nearest house to where this had happened. His testimony gave a description of the injuries on Nellie and the detailed list of Delilah's company. Now, I've got to step back here. I'm a little confused here because this one says they talked to Delilah first and then went to accuse her, but this says they didn't do that. So I'm going to back up and say this is probably the timeline of events. They pull Sadie out of the creek. This is what it sounds like to me. This is written weird. I'm sorry for you folks. Okay, so I'm going to recap how I think it literally happened. So Sadie's pulled out of the creek.
Right.
She doesn't know where the kids are. She's cold. They're trying to get her back. So they're giving her all these stimulants. They're doing everything they can. This one guy shows up, where are the kids? Where are the girls? Where are the girls? She's refusing to answer or saying, "I don't know." He takes her pulse. And it's going wildly, but like I said, they could be giving her cocaine for all we know at this point. The two girls are found. They are able to speak to Delilah eventually. They find that witness of the boy, Dan. But when they find the two girls, they bring them to the same house. Now that sounds more plausible, the chain of events. Mm-hmm. Okay. That sounds better than how this was written. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for confusing you folks. Okay. On Monday, November 3rd, they finally get around to getting all the witness testimony together. It was 9 witnesses, including Sadie herself, who submitted testimony regarding the events. And then there was Miss Elijah Counters, Nellie Mae's mother as well. Eliza testified she'd been acquainted with Simon Brown, the father of the one girl, and had been to his house occasionally. They'd always been on good terms. So her only opinion of what happened to Sadie was she must have been possessed by the devil.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
naturally.
She did not, it never crossed her mind that Sadie would have harmed a child.
Wow.
So there were witnesses going, she did it. What?
Yeah, such an unusual thing for her to do.
Yeah.
Not in keeping, it's not consistent with Sadie's behavior to act out in such a way.
Right.
And then deny, the presence of the girls and where they were. Mm-hmm. And so they had to track down the last spot, where she was reported, her last reported position there, next to the bridge. Now, again, what kind of bridge was this?
It sounds just like a regular road bridge at this point.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. I was wondering, because of traffic.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and this boy was the only one who was the eyewitness who saw her dragging the girls off.
Yes.
Off to the bridge or onto the bridge? Or
now, this doctor who wrote the essays on her, he did a lot of interviews with her about other events in her life. Mm-hmm. Okay, and on the age of 12, Sadie left with her father and younger sister and half-brother on a journey from Missouri. And they traveled mainly on foot, and basically they roughed it. Oh. They would, They weren't stopping at taverns and eating. They were, scavenging what they could find on the road.
Oh, dear.
Sleeping in the rough and that. And many times she would have these seizures, but she would have no recollection of them. So it was only after she came out of these seizures would her siblings or her father say something about this. So we have this young girl who's suffering, obviously, from severe epilepsy. Mm-hmm. Okay, at this point.
Well, even today you find people who find themselves under these same kind of conditions.
Yes.
And, similar incidents, happen.
So in 1884, they settled in Archon, and I guess she started running the household because her father really couldn't at this point. And I guess they got into a lot of really nasty arguments. Neighbors did remember that happening. Okay, but again, nobody's really at this point thinking.
So none of her employers ever took into account her patchwork background.
Well, by the time she got to Akron, she was just starting her career.
Right.
So really, here's this family showing up, and it's still a transient part of the United States. People are going out west or coming back in the east, and that. So having a family show up from Missouri really wouldn't have been
no concerns over whether or not these people are going to go.
Yeah, it's not like they can run a credit check on them.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have the vetting techniques back then that you do nowadays.
And one of the other incidents she described happened after they moved to New York, and she found herself on top of a ladder picking cherries, and she didn't remember how she got there. That's kind of benign, but still, you're on a ladder picking cherries.
Still, yeah.
And there was another time she was scantily dressed, with most of her clothing tucked under her arms, soaking wet, and she had no idea what happened. Despite these times, people who knew her called her nice. Mm-hmm. They were trustworthy. So she's having these seizures, and obviously, while she's having some of these seizures, she might not be behaving as somebody with a seizure. In other words, she's not having, the throwing herself around and stuff like that. She's obviously functional at some level. Mm-hmm. I mean, how else would you get a ladder and get up and start picking cherries?
Yeah, exactly.
And the other one, she went for a swim, possibly. Maybe she tried to drown herself then, too. We don't know.
Exactly. Well, what happens to a person physically when they start to have a seizure of this kind?
I don't know. I've known, the only people I've known with epilepsy kept it under control pretty much with medication and never experienced a seizure in my presence. So I can't tell you.
Well, epilepsy at this time is, it's a known condition. Right. In 1890.
It was known, yeah.
But no real treatments.
No, and I think unless, if these seizures were happening, like I said, she wasn't throwing herself on the floor and having fits, nobody would have made the connection.
And you get prescribed, as you say, cocaine pills for something. Dr. Flincher's cardiovascular edible enema. It was something, some snake oil out of a bottle, that's supposed to be a cure-all. For nervousness, and that's what they called mental illness back then.
Right. And there was nervous. She also described sometimes when she was sleeping, she would feel like the whole world was turning in on her, and she'd get so scared she'd have to go for walks. So that's anxiety. She had severe anxiety too, but everyone.
Don't bipolar or schizophrenia. On top of it, maybe.
Who knows? I mean, I would like somebody with a little psychiatric background take a look at this.
Tell us again, what was her age?
17 when she did the murder. So
you see that. When does schizophrenia or other types of
I'm
defects...
not a mental health expert. I can't tell you.
Well, that would be a question for you folks out there in podcast land to satisfy for yourselves.
Yeah. Now, there were rumors, like, what were the reasons for her to do this? And there were rumors that she was involved with the young man of the Brown house, Simon. And there may have been a bit of a lover's triangle going on with Eliza. And so that was the immediate thing people jumped to.
Dumping extra stress on top of the situation.
Oh, and on top of it, she finally got her period, according to the psychiatrist that treated
at the age of 17?
Yeah. And apparently that happened right before she committed the murder. So he was...
Blimey.
said that stress came up. I'm not too...
That doesn't correlate. That doesn't just...
She's a late for...
Way late.
Way late, and there might be other physical things going on related... okay.
How tall is she? Like 4 feet high?
She obviously had late puberty. She's got the epilepsy going on. She's obviously suffering from anxiety.
A premature birth as well.
And she was premature birth. So she's got a lot of physical, mental problems going on right now. And at this time period, nobody really can diagnose these and take care of them. Like I said, her seizures weren't your typical, stereotypical, dramatic seizures. I mean, she's climbing on ladders, going swimming. I mean, she's obviously... looks like she's coherent and looks like she's awake and looks like she knows what she's doing.
I wonder how many times people had full conversations with her that she completely blacked out on.
I know that happened to me, but that was medical related. I had gone in that first time when they put the tube down my mouth to see if I had severe ulcers. It was decades ago before I had my last ulcer.
Right.
And they said make sure somebody's home with you because this medicine will make you loopy.
Right.
And our babysitter swears up and down. I got up off the bed, went to the door, had a conversation with somebody who wasn't there, went back to bed. I don't remember that, but she swears up and down that's what happened. But the stuff had made me that loopy that I got up and had a full conversation with somebody who was not at the door, at the front door, and went back to bed. When I got up and I was a little more coherent, she told me what happened, and I'm like, that didn't happen. She goes, it totally did. But that was from what they put me under to do the test,
And when that finally metabolized out of your system,
you're
no longer in danger of having conversations with ghosts.
But you could see somebody who's having these type of things happening, like you said, could probably had a full conversation.
Yeah.
Who's to say she wasn't in one of those seizures when she went down to the grocery store, got the butter, put the money down, and then left. In her mind, she had the butter and couldn't figure out why the clerk was coming after her, and that's why she got snooty and snappy with her.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That would make total sense,
Brain chemistry.
Yep.
Wow, man. The brain is still, by and large, a mystery.
She did go live with her aunt for a while, too, in Buffalo, so this was before the murders. Her aunt gives a little bit of a different story on her. Her aunt described her as cowardly, superstitious, easily frightened, and a firm believer in ghosts and demons.
Oh boy. Not a good place to start.
Wow.
Unless you're a paranormal investigator.
Yeah. Wow. So everyone else is like, she's a good... Yeah, she is Catholic, by the way. I just found proof of that.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's a good Catholic girl. She's a good servant. And her aunt's going, no, man, she's into weird stuff, and you can scare the daylights out of her. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? I know this whole other person.
Exactly.
That nobody else sees.
Now, to be fair, though, most of the people we're talking about knew from a servant capability. And everyone knows, any job you work, you have your job persona. And then when you're at home, you have a different persona.
Exactly.
Because you could work at some jobs, and if you brought your home life, how you behave at home into a job, you'd be fired so fast it would be ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They wouldn't tolerate you.
Her aunt giving this testimony that kind of contradicts some stuff. Well, yeah, she lived with her aunt. She was there 24/7 with her aunt for over a year. So her aunt probably did see a lot more of this stuff and realized, there's something wrong with her.
Yeah.
And a firm believer in ghosts and demons. Well, we already discussed how big spiritualism was at that point. So, yeah. She did send her aunt a letter that she wrote on Halloween.
Okay.
It basically sounds... It's a suicide note, in my opinion. It really is. Really? When it starts like this, when you get this, I'll be far from Earth. I'm sick and tired of living. As I told you, my last hope has come at last, and I am thankful to die. People rebuke me for things that I'm not guilty of, and I have no one to love me. I can go in peace as my heart I leave in Archon with the one I have always spoke to you of, and he seems to not care for me. I know it is a sin to put an end to myself, but I'm not the only one. My brain is longing for end, and now if I had a little brother to take with me, I would be happy. And if I died when I was young, how thankful I'd be that I've been. But it is as it is. I must die as it is. So tell my sister I love her as much as ever, but could not stay with her. I hope you will see to them, and I know you will when I am dead. I will come to you and explain, but do not fear me. I will not hurt you, and the man I loved will know me as a frequent visitor. Oh dear, it's all over how thankful I will be. I think I will take someone with me, so I'll close my last letter on earth, hoping God will do justice with me as he does with everyone. So when you get this, you know I am no more, and I will find my body in the basin of Buffalo. Please bury me in Arkan, so I'll be near my loved one. From Sadie. Sadie said she never wrote it.
Oh, wow. So, dissociative personality disorder, maybe?
Probably. And they did say the handwriting did not look like hers. It was jerky in that, but if she was in one of those states,
yeah,
could that have affected it?
Yeah, I would think.
And you know, she kept saying, I want to take someone with me.
Wouldn't be able to rule anything out at this point.
She's saying, I want to take someone with me. So she gets into one of these states.
Take someone with me, and then
takes the girls shopping.
Find my body in the basement?
In the basin of Buffalo. That's how she put it.
Basin of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And if I had a little brother to take with me?
Right. She wanted to take someone with her.
Right.
So she grabs these two girls, takes them with her.
Right.
Tries to take them with her.
Literally. In death.
In death, yes. Wow. Wow.
But then she was unsuccessful in her own...
Right.
In her own self-slaughter.
Yeah.
And so, what were those circumstances again? Did she throw herself from the bridge as she did the girls?
Yeah.
And then they found...
They found her first.
First.
Rescued her, and she kept screaming, put me back.
It must have been... she must have floated downriver then.
Yeah, enough for someone to see her.
For somebody to see her. And so they wouldn't have seen the girls there near the bridge. Okay.
Yeah. Now we got all this evidence. You know, she definitely attempted to kill the girls. She definitely attempted to kill herself.
Well, she was successful in one case, but unsuccessful in another.
Now, let me tell you what serious implications she was facing. What happened in Auburn? What is Auburn prison famous for? We have not discussed this on the podcast, but anyone in the local area might know what Auburn prison is. A first in Auburn prison.
Hanging you by your thumbs.
No.
Okay.
I'll just say it. Auburn prison was the first place the electric chair was used. In the United States, at least.
Old Sparky.
William Kremer was the first prisoner to be executed by electric chair. So it looked like Sadie was going to be heading that way. It looked like she would be maybe the first woman executed in the electric chair in New York. That's that was only 2 months prior to her crime. So now people are thinking, well, that's how she's gonna. That's obviously a crime, just like his was. He'd killed his wife to death with a hatchet. Yeah, she was 5'4", 100 pounds, 17.
Oh, so she was small.
She was tiny, 17 years old. She had these episodes. Now people were thinking, okay, yeah, she did kill the one girl. She tried killing herself and she tried killing the other girl. But was she really in control? The other guy, the guy who had just been executed in Auburn, obviously was in control. It was his choice to, whack his wife in the face with a hatchet. But she had a history of these episodes where she had no idea what was happening, and that. So now it started.
And that would come into that would be factored into her defense.
Exactly,
of course. Right.
So, the verdict.
You have to bring that up.
The verdict. Her trial was in March of next year, 1891. Not guilty of murder. Is the finding of the jury in the case of Sadie McMillan on the trial of murder of little Marmee Connors, after being out for 40 minutes, brought the verdict of not guilty, basing the verdict upon the ground that the woman was insane when she committed the act, and she is still of unsound mind. So then she was put away, right? Well, there's a little post-log to it. She did go to the psychiatric hospital. She'd stayed there for quite some time, and then she was released And no one has any idea what happened to her after that.
Nobody did any follow-up.
Nobody did. There's an article, we will put it in the show notes, written by one of her relatives who's been trying to find out what happened, because she found out she was related to Sally. Wanted to find out what happened to this woman.
Well, if you're related through blood from, to this family, I would think that you'd want to know something about this history. Because it...
Yeah. She was released from it, and then she was released in August 19th, 1893. She had been committed to, like I said, the Buffalo State Asylum, and they said she was perfectly sane at that point. But then she just totally disappeared. I mean, there were sightings of her in Kansas and California, but nothing substantial. Okay. And like I said, the one relative has been trying to figure out what happened to her afterwards.
Well, I suppose, you'd have to leave the area in order to build a new life for yourself. Yeah. Reinvent yourself, maybe give yourself a new name legally.
Based on her past, with her father being that traveler.
Yeah.
Not traveler as the Irish traveler, just traveling like he did.
Right.
She probably had some skills to do that.
Right.
Because he would do that constantly with them. So, yeah. So that's the case of... the second
trap
murders.
Her way all over the...
Oh my gosh!
across the United States. Well, it's not like the Transcontinental Railway wasn't a thing at this time.
Right. So there's the story surrounding the second Murderers Creek.
All right.
And both of them very interesting, and a lot more.
Again, a lot of spotty reporting.
The second one was a lot more. I mean, there is actually more out there, and I'm actually shocked that this case hasn't been jumped upon by some of the YouTubers I watch. They do do the historical true crimes. I'm thinking of one in particular. Maybe I should send this one to him. I'd like to hear his take on it.
Now, is there any? Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But is there any? Okay, talking about the supernatural element. Okay, since this is Unearthly Upstate,
right,
and then supernatural is our shtick. What about any sightings about this little girl, or any sort of phenomenon?
I didn't hear any stories, but it kind of surprises me actually that there's no
I think
stories of a
such
little
a violent,
girl.
Significant event that happened to this little one.
I'm actually shocked that there is
so young.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that there's not stories of a little ghost girl haunting that bridge on Halloween. I really am. It just seems...
And on Halloween.
On Halloween.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's ripe.
That's fertile ground for a supernatural event.
And we mentioned murder ballads.
Yes.
What a murder ballad. This is your quintessential murder ballad.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Sally's was unrequited in love, so she tries to kill these two girls and then herself. I mean, you can almost hear the song in your head.
Exactly, yeah.
And even her disappearing at the end, it's weird. It's one of these that it's so, I wouldn't say common. It's not common, but it's a story you hear over and over and over again.
Exactly.
There are true crimes that are going on right now. Investigations are going on right now that you can see parallels.
Exactly.
With
I know. Yes, it's a really great subject for the Kingston Trio to pen a song about.
Nick Cage. What are you telling me? Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. Well,
Not Nick Cage. Oh, sorry. Wrong guy. Well, no, Nick Cage. He's the one who did Red Right Hand, right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Let's say Tom Waits. Okay.
Or that guy that is the front man for Ghoultown, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Blackburn. Yeah.
Blackburn. Yeah. Exactly.
When you can get him to stop investigating Bigfoot, but hey.
Exactly.
Anyway. Okay. Well, that's the end of the Murder Creek.
Thank you very
Part
much
2.
For listening to our ghastly podcast.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Please like, share, and review on your favorite platform. Unearthly Upstate is an Animator Liar production. The show is produced by Mari and Matt Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing by Mari Manette, Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Unless otherwise stated in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast are not paid or contact us for any type of promotion. Please check out our webpage for credit and sources for the episode. Thank you.